Go on and let's talk to this Christian Horner stuff, because I think that's going to take us the best part of the 35 minutes that we have available. Shez, talk to me about how you ingested today's events, because it was a techie one, wasn't it? It sounded like we were going to get news at 8 p.m. local time. Craig Slater this morning came out and said this has dragged on long enough, and 8 p.m. local time is when we're going to get news. And then Kim Illman launched or released something on Instagram to the effect of Christian Horner's just jumped on a private plane with one Helmut Marko, and in all likelihood, per my sources, says Kim Illman, he's gonna be exonerated. How do you react to all this, Shez? This Christian Horner talk, for the avoidance of doubt.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was asleep for most of it. I've just woken up because it's 6 o'clock in the morning in Melbourne. But so I've picked up all of it right at the end, and I've seen the official announcement from GmbH. But as always with these things, it sounds like the decision had been made and then it was slowly leaked out. So we get a bit of info, and then the official thing comes out. Looking at what the statement has been, it kind of fits with everything that Red Bull, Austrian Red Bull and Thai Red Bull have been saying throughout this entire investigation from them anyway, the official stuff, that they've had an independent barrister involved, that they've taken all of the information that's come out of that investigation. They've taken the decisions based on that. The board have met this week and they've made a call based on what an independent barrister has done, which, you know, from the sounds of things, all sounds fairly above board. They've also stated that the complainant has the right to appeal. So whether or not this is completely over yet, I don't know. But it's been interesting to hear all of the speculation that's been going on, all of it throughout all of this process, and the potential allegations, the what did he actually do, the power play in the background that might be going on, and what this says about what's going on at Red Bull. That all seems to have been condensed into this one little statement that Red Bull have put out, saying that it's done.
Baxty, talk to me about this, but before we dive, of course, Cameron, dive deep into some of the minutiae.
Yeah, my position on this has been that I've tried not to talk about it because there's so much going on here, and I didn't want to sort of idly speculate on things like so many have done. I wanted to talk about the facts, and the facts are he was accused. They appointed an independent lawyer as per procedure for these kind of things. That lawyer, I looked into it, and then a decision has been taken, and that decision essentially exonerates Christian from what he's been accused of. We don't know what he's been accused of, and there's been so much rumor, so much hearsay going on that it's been very hard to kind of separate that and not kind of believe what you're reading, because you're like, well, hang on, we don't know, because we don't know what the complaint is, and we shouldn't know what the complaint is, because there is the protection of the complainant as well that we need to be aware of here. I think the thing I found the most unedifying actually is it's twofold. So first of all, there seems to have been completely forgotten the presumption of innocence in all of this. We live in an innocent until proven guilty society, and most of us do. I know some countries are the other way, but most of us live in innocent until proven guilty. But I think the thing that also angered a lot of people was the fact that he was kind of allowed to carry on in his job. I'm fairly certain that most people would have expected him to have been suspended pending the outcome of this investigation, and yet he was there at the car launch, he was there at testing, doing a few media duties, and it's like that doesn't look particularly good, and it just gives the impression of everything just being a mess. And you had Ford speaking out as well, going, "We need clear indication of what's going on here." And it just, the whole thing has been a mess. And I don't think it's going to go away. Let's be honest, not in this modern day and age. And that, as Shez pointed out, the complainant has a right to appeal. There's also potential to go to civil court here in the UK. So this is probably going to rumble on for a little while longer, I suspect.
So for the avoidance of that, let me read out the statement per GmbH. The independent investigation into the allegations made against Mr. Horner is complete, and Red Bull can confirm that the grievance has been dismissed. The complainant has the right to appeal. There are so much wrinkles in this, and I don't know which way I want to take it in the first instance. So Baxty, let me talk to the way that you've articulated how you've kind of interacted with it, because I've been very different. I didn't think. Listen, I'm not going to shy of condemning Christian Horner and saying that he's guilty and he definitely did it, or going the other way and saying that, oh no, he's an innocent man and he's been a victim of some, like, there are these two factions of F1 fans that are both in essence extremists. One super left wing, the woke population, and then one super right wing, and all in the meantime they've just been like trading barbs back and forth. And that's the piece that I find really unedifying and turns me off. But I didn't see the harm in making videos and engaging it by saying, this is what's been reported, right? Okay, so the Telegraph and Nick Van Haven, or whatever the fella's name is, since it turns out that whatever they've said about having evidence of sexual misconduct has been proved false, not true. But saying, well, Kim Illman has said this about this, or Craig Slater has reported this about this, I didn't think there was necessarily, and I know everybody's entitled to engage the thing the way that they want to, right? But as I'm reading the comments for me just making a video, basically reporting, being the news of the news, summarizing what's being reported on this. If you guys read the comments underneath it, oh my good, how dare you exploit this situation, Cameron F1. You're exploiting Christian Horner. Exploiting millionaire Christian Horner. What are you, like, how is this even, like, do we even understand? Are we even singing from the same hymn sheet as far as definition of the word exploitation? I just think it's absolutely bonkers. And then, since, chaps, I want to deal with this aspect of it first, because again, it feels like F1 toxicity is the scourge of the world at the moment. And I thought as soon as we got the announcement, it was going to be nailed full stop, and then we moved on. But it feels like Abu Dhabi 21 all over again here. So as soon as this happened, again, the comments have just gone. It's like one side, the Lewis Hamilton evangelist, like, oh my God, he should have been in prison by now already, which is like one extreme. And then the right wing maximalists are like, well, don't say his name ever again now. I can't even say some of the things that I'm seeing, like talking about the accuser and slandering her with no, like, you have zero information. So I'm just left really, really disappointed by the community at this stage and the reaction to it from both sides. A, condemning Christian Horner to death. B, condemning the accuser and saying that all sorts of bonkers, like misogynistic slander about how she's like, she must be lazy and that's why, what are we doing here? It's nonsense. And this sort of stuff, honestly, chaps, I'll be honest, this sort of stuff has me second guessing why am I watching the same sport as these lot that talk like this? Genuinely, I don't want to be, I can't be part of that. Me and them are diametrically opposed. Our fundamental constitution couldn't be more different. Shez, chime in on this, bro, the state of F1 toxicity on the back of the reaction from both extremes to this Christian Horner stuff.
I think there's two extremes have always been there. I think it's always been there, right? Like from year dot, but certainly since Formula One has started to become more popular, and that we talk about the Holy Trinity all the time on this podcast, the 2021 season, COVID and DTS all coming together. That's brought a whole swathe of new fans in. It just means that sort of bubbling undercurrent has now become much more out in the open, and that's always there. That sort of tension between one side and the other side. The Max versus the Lewis, the Red Bull versus the Mercedes. It's always bubbling there in the background, just waiting for a topic to come up that's going to make it explode and bring voice to those.
But why is this, Shez? Why can't it? Why can't we just let sleeping dogs lie and just watch the sport and enjoy it? And you know what I mean?
But Cameron, I don't think this is just isolated to Formula One. This is a reflection of the world in general at the moment, right? The world is so polarized. There is no middle ground anymore. If you're not completely right wing or completely left wing, you have no voice in this. You can't be. There is no moderation anymore. So to blandly, and I say blandly in the most positive way I can, to blandly report what you have heard and try and analyze that in an objective manner, that's not enough, because it won't satisfy one side, it won't satisfy the other side, and everyone is just, number one, they want you to say what they want you to say. So unless you are an account that is completely on one side of that argument, you're always going to get major criticism from both sides. And I think because of that, you can't avoid the fact that you're going to have people coming at you from both sides, because they're just looking for the powder keg to just lay into each other, not necessarily the content creator. I think they're just trying to lay into each other, and you've just provided a format for them to do that.
An outlet. But why, Shez? Why again? In fact, Baxty, let me throw this at you. Help me understand this before we dive deep into the nitty gritty of the Horner circumstance. Why as a fan base is there such enduring needle to where people are taking this as an opportunity? Not like, okay, let's draw a line under this Christian Horner thing, or not, depending on whether there's an appeal in the pipeline, and then let's watch F2 tomorrow and see Kimi, and then we get to see the cars being driven in. Like, why is it like every single time it's, well, stop, like, don't talk about Horner again, stop taking his name in vain, or conversely, Horner should be in prison by now. Why is there no shade of grey here, and it's always beef and
I kind of have to go back to what Shez said. There's no such thing as grey area anymore. It's this whole, I mean, F1 Twitter, as we like to call ourselves, is a microcosm of society as a whole. Like, it's just one side against the other. There is no middle ground. And then when you plonk yourself in the middle ground, you're getting it from all angles. It's just, it's hard. It's hard because, you've got this one side versus the other, and then all of a sudden it's like you've also got this whole presumption of innocence, which has gone missing completely from all of this. And there's no care really been given towards the person who's made the complaint,
mate,
and then there's no care being given towards Christian Horner's side. Not him specifically, I'd say, but his family, who are having to read all of this, and his wife and everybody else. Like, that can't be easy for them as well. Yeah, and let's not forget, this case blew up in the UK not because it was Christian Horner, team principal and CEO of Red Bull Racing. It blew up because of who his wife was. So saying husband of Jerry Halliwell, Spice Girl, all blows up, and it's incredibly difficult, and people want to see things that aren't there. Like, people misreporting that this was an internal investigation. No, it was an independent investigation. Then they're saying, oh, well, the lawyer can't be the lawyer can't be independent. You've had people asking questions and going, okay, fair enough, but then there are people saying, oh, it's clearly not an independent lawyer. Just blindly assuming. And that's because we see people just see this in other areas of life, be it politics or everything else, and say, oh, well, clearly everyone's crooked, so screw the system. And it's just like, and it just gets incredibly toxic. I mean, I posted something about it on Twitter and somebody said to me, just admit you're gutted he's not gone. It's like,
well, like there's just one line of argument every single time. It's like
there's a right and a wrong.
Unbelievable.
There's a right and a wrong. Apparently, there's no such thing as the middle ground anymore.
No.
And when you try and find it, people don't want to know.
Unbelievable.
I have to say that's one of the things you said there is what really upsets me about this is that you'll get a lot of crocodile tears. So there'll be a lot of people that say, oh, don't you really need to remember that there's somebody that's suffered at the heart of all this, but that's only really being said to use it as fodder to have a go at the other side, and the other side will sit there and say, oh, does nobody want to respect Christian Horner and Jerry Halliwell's privacy, and innocent until proven guilty, which is true, but that's then being used as fodder to answer the other side.
Yeah.
And even moderate arguments are being used as weapons to bash each other.
Unbelievable.
And as you say, there's nobody, even though there are people and prominent people. So we talk about the journalists at the BBC, at the race, at Autosport that are sitting there, sort of Craig Slater at Sky, that are reporting what they see, trying to stay in the middle ground, and it just creates all that moderation does is create weapons for either side to just bash each other again.
They get accused by one side or the other of being in fake, like,
Correct.
oh, you're defending Horner. It's like,
exactly.
Oh no, you're just drumming up his neck. Yeah, it's like, no, come on, like they're just doing their job. That's literally what journalists are paid to do.
Exactly. But I think this is just this has happened for every topic like this that has come up, right? When Lewis goes to Ferrari, Abu Dhabi 2021, Silverstone 2021. Everything is a right there. Yes, there are facts about this, but it doesn't matter what the facts are. I just want to pick and choose the things that I want to be able to bash the other side. That's what I find frustrating about commenting on Formula One at the moment.
Oh, mate, it's there is zero redeeming feature in this at the moment, lads, and it does get me a bit down. Although, and you know what, this is where it gets techie. Although reading the background, I'm trying to understand the why, what happened, right? And we'll never know ultimately. We'll never get access to the 130-page report per the KC. That's fodder for Red Bull now. But I do find it interesting that all roads lead to the Yavida family, who own 51% of Red Bull, who ultimately are going to have the veto right and carte blanche when deciding in these sort of matters. Whereas before it was Dietrich who kind of owned everything or he would have nailed this and ultimately had the final say. Now that Dietrich's not there, this responsibility apparently wasn't rolled forward. So therein lies the source of the power struggle, right? Because Mintzlaff and Mark Mateschitz in Austria, they want one thing, and again that's probably diametrically opposed to what the Yavida family want, who are super keen on Horner. So you've got this friction, this almost corporate friction from within, and ultimately I feel like most of us, when we were talking, I feel like most of us knew the outcome of this, especially when he got on the plane and was flying out to Bahrain. But I don't know. I think I'm hoping he is genuinely innocent. We'll never know. Genuinely innocent of the allegations. But I think for F1, I'm quite happy, Baxty, that Christian Horner is still Red Bull team principal in 2024. True or false?
I've got to be careful here because I've made it very clear that I don't like the guy.
But you see what I mean, though. If you put in your objective cap and you're talking blockbuster and tidbits,
obviously he's good for. I mean, Netflix will probably be very happy that one of their star turns hasn't left his job just yet. As we all I've said here, this may not be over. But he's a character. He is a character, and you want characters that, look, as I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but I think in terms of a spectacle and, spectacle, that's not the right word, but the exam answer here is he's been found innocent and therefore not worthy of losing his job. And I don't want to see somebody leave a job based on accusations. You want them to be investigated fully, and therefore, as far as I'm concerned, he can carry on doing his job. I may not like the guy, I may not like the way he does his business, but he's got every right to be there.
Blimey. All right, then let's talk some. Look at this now. 30 minutes left, and now we're going to start talking about Bahrain. I will take full responsibility for it. But it's in the news cycle, isn't it? So, of course, being F1 fans, what else is there for us to talk about other than some racing? Bahrain Grand Prix, Shez, what are you looking to see from Messrs Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc this weekend? What are you looking for?
Well, I'm hoping that the test has been fruitful for all of the teams that are chasing Red Bull, that they've taken their new concepts and they've learned some stuff about how to set the car up. And it's always fun at this time. Again, it's all speculation, but Mercedes have been sandbagging, and they've actually got race pace that's on par with Red Bull, and Ferrari have shot their load already. There's just loads of speculation, and it's really fun sort of reading all of that stuff, and then boom, it hits 2 a.m. in the morning here, and we're into qualifying hour, and then you suddenly find out where the chips lie, and it's the best part of the season for me, because it's the only part of the season where there's so much unknown. There's a little bit of guessing. We've just had testing, we've had the phony war, and then boom, qualifying, chips on the table, let's go. And then you find out how things really are, and what the state of the season in front of you is going to be. I mean, the indications are still that probably Red Bull are going to be up ahead. Perez was saying at the drivers' conference, wasn't he, that our car's fast, but it's not that fast. But
in your hands, it's not Checo.
Yeah, exactly. The caveat is that just in Perez's hand? It just takes me back to Jack Benion's comment. Did you guys hear this?
No, go on.
This was this was just in the race's live feed. They said that if Red Bull really want a sandbag, all they got to do is Sergio Perez in the car. Thought, wow,
it's poor taste, but I think there were serious undertones. I think that's true, though, right? True. Even the drivers are talking about it, Shez, saying that if it were Red Bull in Checo's hands, then they might stand a chance and not be writing off their hopes.
And then the other one was this one really, really worried me, was both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. But George Russell especially was saying, the car feels much better to drive. It does what we want it to do. But we've got one big problem. Oh, what's that problem? Oh, it's still bouncing. Right.
Oh, wow.
So that little spectre raises its head again.
It's not porpoising though, is it?
No. No, they're saying it's so when they come into a corner, when they brake, they're getting a bit of bouncing on the front end. But they think that's more to do with a setup issue, which is why I'm hoping that they've learned some stuff in testing. And again, George is also saying that he thinks that'll be ironed out by the time we see them in qualifying. But I guess, again, who knows? If you're asking me for an order, I think in terms of qualifying, it will be probably a Red Bull driver on pole with a Ferrari not a million miles behind, and then in the race, I think it's going to be nip and tuck for who's gonna come in behind a Red Bull driver.
Baxty, talk to me, bro. What are you looking for super quickly from the? What are you dialing in to see?
So obviously I'll be dialing into F2 because I want to see how Kimi Antonelli gets on debut, and the likes of Behrman and Hadjar and Miasa as well. See how they get on. First session for them. From the F1 side, obviously as Shez put it very eloquently, it's the time for talking has stopped, and we're going to find out how everything's played out. All of the winter hard work is going to be shown for the world. I think it's obvious Red Bull are going to be in front, aren't they? I mean, that car design is just bonkers. I think they've done a brilliant job with that. Continuing to innovate, even though they were so far ahead anyway. I think Ferrari and Mercedes will be behind them in that order, and I think McLaren will be sort of nipping at their heels as well. I think the action behind Red Bull will be interesting, but I still see Max certainly for these first few races driving off into the distance, not to be seen other than if he's lapping somebody or if he just has a spin because he's bored or something. It's. I have seen the weather forecast for this weekend though, and apparently it's going to be quite windy on Thursday and Friday, so that makes qualifying quite tricky. So we could see a little bit of a jumbled grid because of that. But also at the back of the grid, I want to see how far down Alpine are, because they talk a big game, but they could be in for a big shock and a big rude awakening. And there's stories emerging of engineers already being asked to leave, and I'm like, that team is an absolute mess at the moment, and they've got two drivers who are not worthy of that mess. They are both brilliant. I love Esteban and Pierre, but that could be a disaster zone Alpine at the moment, and it's going to be quite horrible to watch, because that's a team you want to see do well, because it is a factory team.
I need to go back and watch the Drive to Survive episode. I watched the first 5-10 minutes of it, and they were just like, they showed the footage of them in karting. Like, mate, they do not like each other. There's no pretense there. And I agree with your Alpine point, Baxty. I think they're going to be last, underpowered.
Behind Haas?
100%, bro.
Oh, that's a big call.
100%. Because they're the personnel that's left, they're 30-40 brake horsepower down on the rest with that Renault engine. Overweight too. They're like under everything that you want to be over, and over everything that you want to be under, right? It's just, I think they've, although their hands are tied to some extent, I think what I'm looking forward to, Kimi Antonelli, I'm going to have to, that live stream is going to be chaos, chaps. You heard me talk about the road to greatness, and there's this, the plot line, that's the plot line from this weekend. I want to see how good, I don't want to bake in too much expectations, right? He's young. He's already complained about the transition to these higher downforce cars. The brake powers hurt his body, and he says that he's not physically ready, or at least he wasn't at the wet test in Bahrain. But I just want to see, man. I'm hoping that he's and Senna reincarnate, and just that he just aces it. Can you imagine in quali if he actually gaps Ollie Bearman to the tune of a 2 or 3 tech? Can you imagine those, Shez? It's probably not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's probably not going to happen. But that's why I'm streaming it. I'd never watch F2. I'm going to be
of pressure on this little kid,
100%, bro. But again, the rumours. Do you know when it's like? It's one of those, this is like back in the days when you couldn't really get too much F1 content and there was no YouTube. Like, there were so many like second-hand accounts of this dude's mythical abilities. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's initial D or something, the mystery.
But the official stuff is sort of heaped it on as well. Like we were all assuming anyway that part of the reason that Lewis sort of cut his contract short was because Mercedes wanted to keep that seat warm for Kimi Antonelli, and now Toto's come out with it and said, "Oh yeah, the reason that we couldn't offer Lewis a 2-year deal solidly was because we were keeping the seat for Kimi." Now, how big are those shoes to fill? Like,
100%.
basically, you're in F2 to fill the seat vacated by a 7-time world champ. Yep. Yikes!
And now you're going to be on the W13 testing as well. It's absolutely big shit. But we called it, didn't we? Not to like pat ourselves on our back. I feel like we had this conversation.
You two did.
And we're fairly.
I said it would be a bad idea,
but it might.
I still do.
All three of us might be right in that. Still, Baxty, you got to wait and see how this plays out, right? Finally, chaps, as we round third base. Did anybody see Lewis's comments in the driver press conference?
Which ones? I've seen
Which
a
ones?
couple.
Yeah,
Oh
same.
my God, chaps, you gotta watch this. So, Craig Slater asked Lewis the question.
I've seen this.
I'm gonna paraphrase as best I can. There's rumour about Kimi Antonelli super fast taking your seat in 2025, Lewis. How do you think George will cope with that? Do you think he's got the leadership skills and or the pace to deal with like a red hot prospect? To which, and this might be something, chaps, and it might be nothing altogether. It's really, really hard to tell. Lewis responds. Lewis literally does this, like he goes, and it's a really long pause between the end of the question and the start of Lewis's vocalised answer. Then he gives the exam answer and says, yeah, no, listen, George has come up through the ranks and he's learned a lot through Williams and now he's here and he's got the lead. Like then he gives the proper exam answer, right? But there's like a 2-3 second period when I'm watching this and I'm thinking, is this acrimony spillover? Is this you don't think so, Baxty? Tell me.
No. I just
Did you see it? Did you watch it?
I've seen the clip, and I think Lewis was just kind of going, "What the fuck are you going on about?" Like, but thinking not say that out loud. I mean, the one interesting line he did drop in, I think, was, well, he is really close with Toto, so that kind of, may have been a bit odd. And I know George said that. Yeah, he was staying at Toto's house when Lewis came over to tell him about the move to Ferrari, and it was people are kind of looking at that, going, "Why is he staying at Toto's house? Like, what they do with their job is their business." But yeah, I don't think Lewis was. I think he was just kind of thinking about it and going, because he doesn't need to worry about that, really, does he?
True.
He's just like, that's not my problem. Why should I worry about it? So he's had to go, no, I think he'll be fine.
But just,
I don't think there's any.
You didn't read anything into it. No. But just very unlike Lewis is like, I know we say PR63, but Lewis doesn't really. I can count the number of PR faux pas from Lewis Hamilton over the course of his career on like one hand, right? Like he doesn't really make too many mistakes.
Yeah, true.
So I thought it was quite uncharacteristic. Have you seen it, Shez?
I haven't, but I can already imagine what that looked like. But also, listen, this season is unique for both Lewis and George, right? In that, because Lewis is leaving, it changes the dynamic there, and
that's what I'm saying, bro.
And it's not about acrimony. This is about. Lewis knows that towards the end of the season, or even in the middle of the season, he's going to start being excluded from certain meetings, certain information. Data is not going to all flow his way quite as easy, and things will start to gradually move to focus on George, because George is gonna hang around. So how does the guy that's leaving, who still wants his 8th championship, who potentially might have a car that could challenge for it. If the car isn't going to challenge for a title, then this all becomes a bit moot. It will just be a repeat of 2022 and 2023, right? And they can just amble along and do what they were doing. But if there's an actual title challenge, potentially, this is the kind of thing that he has to do. Sow that little bit of doubt. I'm not saying that is what he's doing, but it's probably what he does need to do, is kind of sow that little bit of doubt, either publicly or privately, that George, maybe you don't have the minerals, mate. And like, he's not saying that because he actually believes it. He'll be doing it because this is psychological warfare as much as it is on track warfare.
Wow, this is chaos, bro. I can't believe that we're here. I honestly, and to be fair, it was always that train is never late, right? The acrimony and a bit of friction between two top level drivers who both want the same thing in a World Drivers' Championship, right? They were always going to bump heads at some point, but I don't know. It was just, I was watching it. I was like, what? Like, what is like? I don't know. I just thought it was really.
I think it's going to get much worse than that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I will say this: at some point this season, you will probably post on Twitter your George Russell video. At some point,
100%, 100%. I've got it ready in draft. The reason why you got to do one of these, haven't you? But no, I think it is really. I think it's interesting. We'll see. Maybe the start of something that we need to keep our eye on. If this has been the week of connecting F1 news cycle dots. Right, lads, you guys have been legends. Shez, I'm going to let you run away. For Shez, for Sir Baxty, I've been Cameron F1. We'll see you same time, same place next week. And as always, remember to look but never stir. Pose.